Here's what's coming up on this episode of Contributing to a Safer Ohio.
The people benefiting from food stamp fraud are obviously the retail owners or the clerks.
OIU agents are tasked with investigating food stamp fraud. Also on this episode,
communities have a right then to prepare to respond and protect their citizens from those chemicals.
Local emergency planning committees are required to test their plan for handling a hazardous material incident each year. But first, Ohio continues its agenda to improve community police relations.
This is a significant achievement for the collaborative to establish this policy, which will, in effect, be statewide.
These stories coming up on this episode of Contributing to a Safer Ohio. Continuing Ohio's intensive agenda to improve community police relations, the Ohio Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board and the Office of Criminal Justice Services recently released a report listing law enforcement agencies that have and have not adopted and fully implemented statewide standards on use of force, including deadly force, and agency recruitment and hiring. The standards are the first of their kind in Ohio and were established by the Ohio Collaborative in August 2015. The law enforcement certification process began in mid-February 2016, and the state partnered with the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association and the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police to help certify Ohio's law enforcement agencies. Within that time, more than 500 agencies employing over 27,000 officers in all 88 counties, representing 79% of all law enforcement officers in Ohio and most of Ohio's metropolitan departments, are participating in the certification process.
The agencies who are participating in the certification process are both showing leadership among law enforcement agencies as well as showing a commitment to the communities they serve, that they're willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that they're the best possible agency they can be. The report outlines the certification process so that any person who picks it up doesn't have to go back in time and do a lot of research to understand exactly what the report means. It also will contain for each county a county profile. The profile will demonstrate the percentage of officers who are covered by a certified agency, the percentage of the population that is served by an agency who is in the process, at a minimum in the process of the certification. It will also have the executive order in it that created the Ohio Collaborative and talk a little bit about the history that got us to where we are today.
The law enforcement certification process helps law enforcement agencies engage their community. It gives them the ability to offer transparency, implement and train officers in common sense policies that deliver excellent service, and ultimately strengthens trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. City of Gahanna Police Chief Dennis Murphy, whose agency was certified in January this year, discusses the certification process and community police relations.
Law enforcement is evolving. It's evolving constantly, and you have to stay up with it. You have to anticipate what is coming and don't get caught up in the tidal wave. And we are, as an organization, out front with that. We want to embrace the community. We're listening to what the community is saying, and that's why we're prepared, and that's why we actually passed that certification. I believe that everybody should have a voice in how they're policed, and we are truly listening to what the community is saying.
The Ohio Collaborative established additional statewide standards on community engagement, law enforcement telecommunicator training, body-worn cameras, and bias-free policing. Ohio Collaborative members Dr. Ronnie Dunn and Chief Michael Navarre offer comments on the impact of the recent establishment of the bias-free policing standard.
Bias-free policing is vital to the whole initiative of increasing or enhancing community police relations. And it helps to do that by, one, providing the data which is necessary to analyze and review to make sure that our law enforcement personnel are interacting with all citizens in a fair, equitable, and manner that has integrity Once the citizens have greater trust in our law enforcement community, they're more inclined to work along with them and co-police to help reduce the real issues of crime in some of our most impacted communities.
And this is an historic moment for the state of Ohio. This is the first time that we've ever had a standard that requires data collection. Not just the larger departments, but every police agency in the state. So in order to be in compliance with this standard, they're going to have to begin collecting data on drivers of self-initiated stops. I think once police departments start doing this, they're going to realize that there are some tremendous benefits. It also provides a mechanism for police departments to perform a self-audit, to look at individual officers. You may have officers that are stopping all females. That's a real problem. And without data to support that, sometimes it's just a guess on your part, but if you've got data, you can back that up and you can address the problem.
Ohio continues to be a national model in its efforts to improve community police relations. For more information on the Ohio Collaborative Community Police Advisory Board, please visit this website. Most Ohio residents have become accustomed to severe weather emergencies. But did you know that Ohio averages 800 hazardous material incidents each year? That is more than 2 per day.
It could be ethanol, it could be chlorine, it could be, say, Bakken crude oil, it could be ammonia, so a whole host of different things.
Hazmat teams around the state, in conjunction with the State Emergency Response Commission and 87 local emergency planning committees, or LEPCs, work hard every day to contain the multitude of spills in an effort to keep Ohio safe. LEPCs must develop an emergency response plan, review the plan at least annually, and provide information about chemicals in the community to its residents.
The primary function of the LEPC is to have a clear understanding of dangerous chemicals that are in their communities, to develop plans on how to respond to releases of those chemicals into the community, either by accident or some other means, and then to exercise or to practice those plans to make sure that they in fact would work and would protect their community in the event of a release.
The LEPC has several functions. One, as I mentioned, is to have a hazardous materials emergency response plan in place. 2 is exercising that plan, as we've discussed already. 3 is to accept and process the Tier 2 reports from the facilities. There are specific chemicals, hazardous chemicals or extremely hazardous chemicals that they have. 4 is to process right-to-know requests from the public, what spills have happened here, that sort of thing, what is in our community from a chemical standpoint, and then 5, to report spills of certain thresholds.
In Ohio, LEPCs must test their hazardous material plans each year. During a 4-year exercise cycle, each LEPC must demonstrate 13 critical capabilities. The State Emergency Response Commission approves local plans and exercises and oversees the appointment of local LEPC members.
Being involved in the LEPC is important because it gets community members, responders, facility folks involved in talking to each other, planning for incidents, and exercising together.
Because of those plans and those tests, those 800 real events that happen in Ohio on an average year don't make the headlines. You don't see 800 hazmat incidents making the headlines because communities are prepared, they're trained, and they can deal with most of these and keep these from getting out of hand and becoming catastrophic.
These coordinated hazardous material plans and exercises contribute to a safer Ohio. In a Cincinnati area parking lot, a confidential informant working with Ohio Investigative Unit agents used food stamps to purchase drugs from employees with U.S. Beef, a meat truck company, in May 2015.
If you trust me, which I know I know that you can, if you don't do the rest, I can go, because I can make money on this. We can go cash out and I can buy you some more. I can bring you the rest of bring you some more pills.
The agents worked for several months gathering evidence on both U.S. Beef and the Butcher Shop, another meat truck company, in a separate case. In each case, the meat truck companies are authorized food stamp retailers, but the contractors who met with the informant to complete the transactions were not authorized to accept food stamps. Agents are tasked with investigating this fraud.
The Ohio Investigative Unit takes food stamp fraud very seriously. $2.4 billion every year of food stamp benefits are issued in the state of Ohio alone. 1 in every 8 Ohioans receives food stamp benefits. It is a necessary, wonderful program that helps to benefit our citizens, and we want to make sure the food gets in their hands.
During the last 3 years, OIU has reported more authorized retailers for disqualification than any other state contracted with the USDA to enforce the food stamp law.
During the course of our investigations, the Ohio Investigative Unit agents have purchased many ineligible items with our food stamp benefits. For instance, we bought cars, moonshine, weapons, and drugs. Typically, a food stamp fraud case occurs at retail establishments where we are offered either items that are ineligible, like alcohol and cigarettes, or 50 cents on the dollar, meaning if we had $50 of benefits on our food stamp card, the retail establishment would give us $25 in exchange for the $50 of benefits. The meat truck case that we're referring to was very different. It did not occur in retail establishments like your local grocery store or carry-out. These men and women would meet our confidential informants and agents in parking lots. They would have our point-of-sale terminals. The terminal is where you would swipe your EBT card in their trucks, and then they would swipe our EBT card right there, and in exchange they would either give us money or drugs.
When these go through, we're going to go to Fairfield, okay? We're going to cash out with his dad. I'm going to pull some cash, okay? And then I want to go back to this lady, and I'm going to give her the cash, and I'm going to buy some more pills off her, okay? And then I'm going to meet you, whenever you want to meet, either today or tomorrow, whatever you're doing, I'm going to give you the pills. We're even Steven.
OIU and the United States Department of Agriculture Office of Inspector General determined that the 2 meat truck businesses made fraudulent transactions amounting in nearly $1.5 million.
At the conclusion of the meat cases, our agents charged 16 people with food stamp and drug trafficking. Many of those people are now serving multiple-year sentences in federal prison and have been ordered to pay $1.1 million in restitution. It is very important that we all work together to stop the misuse of food stamp benefits. We are asking you to help us stop food stamp fraud.